People, I know I've gotten into the habit, and I like it, of starting off with a video, and I want to start off with this one, but I'm going to have to play this video and do what I do with my kids when we listen to Tom McDonald in the car. I'm going to have to cough over certain words because I don't want to be a bad influence, because I know there are, what's the word? Influential. I know that I have some of my kids' friends who do watch the streams to expand their brains as opposed to rot them watching TikToks and whatever this is. People, is there an echo? There can't be an echo. Come on. Is there an echo? We'll see if there's an echo, but I'm not going to talk. How do I do this? How do I do this? Oh, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna pull myself out, and then I'm gonna have to pause when Ron Perlman goes from making a compelling argument to doing what, I mean, I don't care if Ron Perlman thinks he's right. If he thinks that this comes off as right, or this comes off as anything less than unhinged, I've lost touch then with reality myself. Let's see if
Good morning, Governor DeSantis. Ron here.
No, I've got to do something. I've got to do it. I cannot watch this without commenting on it in real time to avoid the echo, people. Here's what we're going to do. Yes, they're my kids. They were $5. I don't know where my Cost Porta Pros are. Okay, this should eliminate the echo. And I mean, I just first here. Yeah. Let's start.
Good morning, Governor DeSantis.
Good morning.
Ron here.
Ron here. They're on a first name basis, and that's that the smirk is very curious.
Good morning, Governor DeSantis. Ron here.
I've thought about this all night. He's thought about this presentation all night.
Don't say gay.
We're going to get to this factual error in a second. The premise on which this tirade is based, is flawed.
Don't say.
Passionate.
The first two words in a sentence spoken by a political leader of a state.
He's passionate. This is like Bill Murray in Lost in Translation. More passion.
In the United States of America, don't.
Emphasis there. He went from the United States to the United States of America.
Don't say. Don't fucking say.
Oopsie doodles. I got distracted by a chat. So
hey, you fucking.
No, boy. He uses the Yahtzee word.
Say. First Amendment.
He's right. I agree with him.
Read about it.
I think Ron DeSantis knows about it.
Then run for office.
He's already in office. It's too late to do that.
You piece of shit.
Excuse me. So that, those are the words of wisdom. Let's just go ahead and those are the words of wisdom from Ron Perlman. I agree with him. First Amendment. Say. I mean, that's interesting, actually. Say is not First Amendment. Say is compelled speech. First Amendment is you should be free to speak without government sanctions, which incidentally, I can understand some people are saying that this bill prohibits freedom of speech in that it does provide for sanctions in the event that certain subject matter is taught to kindergartners to grade 12ers. That is Ron Perlman. Now, I'm just going to say that the chat that distracted me was this. Daniel, Viva, my mom wants you to cut your hair, please. Dude, I thought that was my brother, because my brother's name is Daniel, and I thought he was saying, Dave, Viva, your mom wants you to cut your hair, because my mother wants me to cut my hair. And she keeps saying, I see people in the chat saying that you should cut your hair. Mom, I think you're misunderstanding. People in the chat, I'm going to run a poll. I'm going to run a poll when we get into this. Should I cut my hair? The answer is no. The answer is no, Mom. We shall let the fro grow. Ron Perlman. Oh, this is good. Some might even say Ron clutching pearls Perlman. I stole your joke and made it better. The don't say part. It has become... Give liberal politicians flack, judge them as you may. One thing that a lot of people seem to be in agreement on, They are good at marketing and they are good at messaging. And I say this, I don't consider myself left or right. I can just observe that at least in the United States, Democrats are far better at messaging than Republicans. And they've run with this "Don't Say Gay" bill, and they've labeled this Ron DeSantis Florida bill that just became law as the "Don't Say Gay" bill, as though the bill specifically says you cannot say gay. I had to look it up because I'm a schnook Canadian with dirt on my glasses. I'm a schnook Canadian, and I said I would find it offensive if any law said you could not speak about homosexuality in particular. I would find that offensive, morally and politically. If it said you can talk about heterosexuality, you can talk about sexuality, but you cannot talk about homosexuality, I would find that morally offensive, politically offensive. So I'm hearing what's going on in Canada, in the States, and I say, if the law says this, I'd find this curious. So I have to go look in it. Ron, I've got to get you out of the stream, man. Unless you want to come on one day and explain a little bit more eloquently, because I don't like swear words on my stream, because I know that younger people might be watching, even though I do swear myself from time to time when I enjoy a snifter of ported Christmas, or I stub my toe on a bike pump and crack my toe in half. True story. It actually healed broken. So my pinky toe, I can turn it a full 90 degrees to the side because the bone broke and then healed broken. So what does this law say? And I'm going to take it from CBC News because they're good journalists. Excuse me. Just choked a little bit on some vomit there. StreamYard, we're in. Okay. Let's just go read what the bill says in terms of what it says and what it doesn't say. This is World News. Don't Say Gay bill becomes law in Florida, banning sexual orientation instruction from, I guess that's kindergarten to 3. And this was published March 28th. The law, which critics say marginalizes LGBTQ people, lets parents sue over violations. So, interesting phraseology. It bans sexual orientation instruction, which in my mind also includes heterosexuality. It's banning talk about what some people might think is too early for kindergartners to grade 3 years, maybe. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill on Monday that forbids instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity, which to me, reading this, means both heterosexual and homosexual and other. In kindergarten through grade 3, a policy that has drawn intense national security from critics who argue it marginalizes LGBTQ community, lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer people. The legislation is, okay, thus far, by the way, and you're not going to see anything different because the legislation, despite the branding, Nikki Fried, among others, I don't know why I still follow her. I wish Nikki might just block me the way Kathy Griffin did yesterday. But setting that aside, Nikki Fried, who's running for governor in Florida, but apparently has zero chance. And if anybody follows her inane Twitter feed, you'll see that there's good reason for that. It's almost a parody of a Twitter feed. And sometimes I don't know. Today, she tweeted out, one-word tweet, gay. I understand the point. Some people might feel that sort of political exploitation of their class, of their group. Some people. If she just tweeted out one day any number of words that I think were identifying me by demographic, short, stubby, ugly, no, I might feel that she's exploiting my demographic for political gain. The legislation has pushed Florida and DeSantis, an ascending Republican and potential 2024 presidential candidate, to the forefront of the country's culture wars, which is very interesting because it is effectively a culture war. It's not a truth war. It's a culture war. With LGBTQ advocates, students, Democrats, the entertainment industry, and the White House denouncing what critics have called the Don't Say Gay bill. By the way, let me just get to the spoiler alert. There's nothing that says don't say gay in it. It just says we're not going to teach sexual orientation, heterosexual and homosexual, to kids in kindergarten to grade 3. Agree with it or disagree with it. And not to straw man, I'll steel man. The argument is that heterosexuality, two-sex couples are so much the norm in everyday society that it goes without saying and therefore does not need to be addressed. Whereas kindergartners to grade 3ers who might be gender confused or sexual orientation confused, which I think already is probably none of the school's damn business. If there's that issue existing strictly between the parents and their kids in grade 3 or kindergarten. But the argument is going to be, we don't need to talk about heterosexual couples, mommy and daddy, the nuclear family, everybody knows about it. So it doesn't target heterosexual couples. It only targets other. That's the argument. I disagree with it. We will make sure that parents can send their kids to school to get an education, not an indoctrination, said DeSantis before he signed the bill into law. He and other speakers stood at a podium. Critics say the bill is so vaguely worded that speech could be muzzled throughout public schools. Well, if you can't teach them about sexual orientation, that is muzzling speech. The question is it so ambiguous that, which is the concern, if little Jimmy comes in and talks about his same-sex parents, and the teacher engages in conversation, what did your parents do over the weekend? Oh, when did they get married or whatever? That might contravene the law. And the concern is that kids with gay parents won't even be able to discuss it. Ambiguous laws are always a problem. And that's what the courts are there to adjudicate on if there's ever a problem. But the bill states a classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation, which includes both and all, by the way, or all, I should say, or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with the state standards. That's the issue. What is appropriate for the age? What qualifies as discourse? Are they talking about gender identity or sexual orientation if a kid has trans parents? That's the issue. But one thing is for certain. When people have dumbed down the dispute to a trope, you are probably not getting a fair or accurate understanding of the actual issue. There's nothing in this legislation that says don't say gay. If anything, it says don't say sexual orientation. When you're talking to kindergartners, they don't need to know about the birds and the bees yet. They don't need to know about specific bees preferences or specific birds preferences. Whether or not birds can go with birds and bees can. They don't need to know that. They're kindergartners through grade 3ers. And that's a discussion like religion, like politics, that should occur between parents and their kids regardless. So that's it. Laws, laws, laws. That's the don't say gay bill that Ron Perlman thinks can possibly justify nothing less than a hate-filled diatribe, which throws out the Yahtzee word, the F word, and if I'm Ron DeSantis and I'm looking at that, I'm thinking he looks a little unhinged. I'm thinking Ron Perlman looks a little unhinged there. And if they're in fact on a first name basis, maybe the way to express your disagreement is to have a discussion, a civil one at that, and not take to Twitter, where, other people have been banned for worse, Ron Perlman. Other people have been banned for less, Ron Perlman. Other people that you have had big, big issues with. And I suspect, I'm not sure, I couldn't find anything to confirm it, I suspect Ron Perlman rejoiced when Donald Trump was banned from social media platforms. The man who says, say, First Amendment, this is America, the United States of America. I have no doubt, but I could not find anything to confirm it yet, that he reveled. He was probably speaking of animals in manure, he was probably happy as a dog rolling in raccoon poop when Donald Trump had his First Amendment rights stifled by the very same media that he's using to exercise his. Brad and Kyle bowling. I just got a notification. Let me just see here. This is maybe a shout out that they never wanted. Bowling's best get ready for last PBA major. Brad and Kyle, they're up to 121,000 subs. I had Brad and Kyle on the channel in the early days of the pandemic. Two bowlers. And for anybody who doesn't know, not only do I like bowling, I like watching vlogs about bowling. So that's it. Don't say gay. Just people don't even take the 30 seconds to look into things. They say, oh my goodness, this is atrocious. Ron DeSantis is passing a bill that forbids discussion on homosexuality. And they're left with the impression that somehow this bill specifically targets the gay community or specifically targets any one sexual orientation or any group of sexual orientations as opposed to all sexual orientations, which some people might think is absolutely proper and appropriate when you're talking about teaching kids from kindergarten to grade 3 or at any other point in high school in a manner that's age appropriate. Showing naughty videos to grade 6ers, not age appropriate. Also not something a school should be doing. Experience the Viva Frei follicles explosion on Rumble and YouTube. It will shock and awe you. Oh, by the way, didn't do the intro disclaimer. Thank you very much, Frank Donchez, and yeah, I like that avatar. That's the blue nose. That's, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the boat that is on the Canadian 10-cent. Let's see this. Kids don't need to learn about sex when they are young. There's no question. There's no question. And you know what? If my kid asks a question about sex to a teacher, I would expect the teacher to say, "Sorry, this is not my wheelhouse. Go ask your father. Go ask your mother." But we have those discussions, especially when we hear the lyrics to Tom McDonald songs and we have to explain certain things. I do not believe in censorship, but I do believe in explaining the stuff so that they can know you can watch Spaceballs, but you can't go to the park, point your finger out and say, "Keep firing, a-holes," because that's a naughty word that you can't say in public. If they could indoctrinate kids in the womb, okay. I appreciate hindsight now, and my hindsight appreciation of the awful cesspool that is Hollywood. Now, hold on one second, people. Let me just go to the YouTube. Oh, while I do this, I can multitask. YouTube super chats. YouTube takes 30%. Stop that. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. If you don't like that, we are simultaneously streaming on Rumble. Rumble has a super chat equivalent called Rumble Rants. Rumble takes 20%, so better for the creator, better to support a platform that you like. Should I cut my hair? Yes, turtles. And to be fair, I'm going to say no, turtles. And I'm going to say don't care. Show results. And only say don't care if you really don't care. Simultaneously streaming on both. I'm going to go to Rumble and make sure I don't miss any Rumble rants. But yeah, I went to the bank and I had to show a piece of ID, and the piece of ID which I can't show is no facial hair and no head hair. And the guy for a second did not believe it was me. And then I was like, "I just got out of my basement." Yeah, they found it funny. Okay. So that's the Don't Say Gay bill, and that's Ron DeSantis Ron Perlman's unhinged Twitter rant at Ron DeSantis. And I don't understand who can make that decision. I made bad decisions. I've done things which, are probably embarrassing in retrospect. But I don't understand who does that and thinks that makes them look good. Which brings us into our second or first subject of the day. I'm not going to go off on, thank you very much. I'm not going to go off on the slap of the face, the Will Smith slap of the face of Chris Rock. Except to say one thing. People are saying it's staged. They're saying, "Oh yeah, for the Oscars, whatever." And I say, for those arguments, it's not staged because it doesn't make the Oscars look good. If the Oscars ever came out and said, "Yeah, this was a staged event," it destroys them even more than it destroys them if it weren't staged. I say it also is not staged because Will Smith comes out of this looking like an unhinged maniac. He looks like an unhinged individual as well, who can't control his rage, goes from laughing to slapping to crying to dancing. It makes him look unstable. And I say that with respect and without judgment. It makes him look unstable. But there's another angle to whether or not this was staged that I can't. Someone mentioned it, that Pfizer sponsored the Oscars, and I was like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. And then I went and I looked and I said, "Oh, Pfizer did sponsor the Oscars." And I said, before that. So there's only one way that Will Smith could do something like this as part of a setup, when it would tarnish his brand, if it were not known to be a setup, or even if it is discovered to be a setup. There's only one way to do that, and that's if it's worth enough money for the embarrassment. And then when I found out that, and don't believe me, people, then when I found out that Pfizer and BioNTech, which I also believe is in the news for other reasons, sponsored the Oscars, well, then I had a few questions. Is this the article? Yeah, this is the article. Get out of here. Fiercepharma.com. Take it for what it's worth. Get out of here. Pfizer and BioNTech go to Hollywood with splashy Oscars sponsorship. Oscar-winning actor Will Smith slapping comedian Chris Rock made the biggest headlines out of the Oscars Sunday night. But the sponsorship from Pfizer and COVID shot, that's why I knew them, BioNTech and COVID shot partner BioNTech was, for the pharma marketing world, a bigger moment. Let's just see what the vaccine pair, which teamed up 2 years ago, yada, yada. Okay, Pfizer and BioNTech are proud to support the Oscars, and we are heartened to see the film industry gather in person and alongside fans to celebrate the talent and artistry produced during the past year, a Pfizer spokeswoman told. You know what? They didn't celebrate talent and artistry Sunday night. They celebrated debauchery and immorality. And it's an I mean, I haven't watched in years, but this just confirms my theory. It's a cesspool of trash and immorality. And I don't know what talent they're celebrating. They're stroking egos and doing worse. All right, let's just see if there's anything else in here. I don't want to read this garbage. This is garbage. All that to say, the sponsorship and the in-person event come after the Oscars was forced to go virtual during the pandemic. Its return, one could infer was one could infer was made possible predominantly by vaccines, including Pfizer and BioNTech's mRNA shot Comirnaty, which is one of the two main COVID vaccines. All right, trust your doctor. No medical advice, no legal advice, no election fortification advice. Yada yada yada. Let's drop this now. So they did in fact sponsor it. So there's one thought, it's all corruption and yada yada yada. What is Pfizer? We all know the big product of Pfizer, which we've already known, brought to you by Pfizer. We've seen it time and time again. Another lesser known. I mean, it's so funny. I'm not putting together the dots, to quote Mark Grobert and Eric Hunley. I'm not putting together the dots. I'm just answering queries that were brought to my attention and that I had to verify. One of the products, Pfizer feedback survey. Based on today's visit, how would you... Gosh darn it. Sorry. I can't even submit a false negative review because it's not in my blood. Pfizer announces, this is from August 2021. Pfizer announces positive top-line results for phase 2B of 3 trial of they really couldn't have picked a harder name, someone said, Retlicitinib in alopecia areata. Pfizer today announced positive top-line results from phase 2 of this drug, Allegro trial, evaluating oral once-daily in patients with alopecia. I don't know what type of alopecia Jada, I totally just blanked on her name, Pinkett Smith has. But it is very interesting that Pfizer sponsors the Oscars. Pfizer has a product that as of November 2020, what did I just say this date? August 2021, was seemingly successful on a treatment for alopecia, which Will Smith, the slap heard around the world's wife, suffers from, which accounts for her shaved head and patchiness, which whether or not Chris Rock knew was the reason for which she had a shaved head, which is why Will Smith apparently took offense, but probably took offense for other reasons. And that led to the slap. So, if one were to say it was a staged event and try to find cause as to how much it could have been worth to someone to make a fool of themselves and to basically come off as the biggest jackaninny on earth, well, Pfizer's got that. Pfizer's got that budget. So interesting. Let me just see what I've lost track of the chats, even on slow mode. I thought the plan was to wear a headband and make yourself look cool. More headband, please. You inspired me to start growing my hair. Keep it going. I don't know that that's inspirational, but I want to hear Viva say Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton. Staged ratings. I don't think that would be the excuse. But all I'm saying, I don't think it was staged because everyone comes out looking bad if it is disclosed that it is staged. I think Will Smith comes out looking bad one way or the other. But if he's going to come out looking bad, how much would it take him to say, okay, I can do this and I'll do it and I can justify it morally to my wife who suffers from alopecia? I'm going to do something that's going to discreetly create a full circle of event to publicity to awareness to product sale if and when this ever happens. So it's funny. Don't make more of it than that. One also thing I want to just address. This is not only actually strictly with respect to to the slap heard around the world, but to everything on social media. The propensity now for people to tolerate violence, to condone violence, and to in fact encourage violence, especially in as a response to words and insults. I mean, Piers Morgan on Fox, and I gotta stop watching Fox. It's what I get on the treadmill. Piers Morgan saying, it was wrong, but I would have done the same thing in his shoes because it's an insult to my wife's honor. And okay, Piers. First of all, if you would have been an idiot as well, I mean, it's nothing necessarily to be proud of. One can say I would have done the wrong thing. It would have been wrong for me to do it, but I don't have self-control, as if that's something to celebrate. But this idea that it's like it somehow did his wife honor to go up there and act like a jerk, act like an abusive human being, I have a problem with. Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I like some of the things she says, and I disagree with some of the things she says. And when she says something I disagree with, I will say it respectfully. But this idea that alpha male move, first of all, I hate it when people use the term alpha male, because it's such a loaded and I'll say idiotic and childish concept. An alpha male. What does an alpha male mean? Someone who's strong and will just randomly beat the crap out of animals. Someone who's thoughtful and caring and will read his daughter books. Someone who will cry during a movie. Someone who doesn't cry during a movie. The idea of an alpha male in humans, to analogize it to what we typically understand as alpha males in animals or canines. I mean, it's just such a childish, superficial understanding of what it means to be a man or a male. And when I see, what's his face, Ethan Klein, talking alpha males and beta males, and when I see other people, Jack Murphy, I don't like the idea. I don't like the concept of alpha males. I think it's childish. I think it's juvenile. I think on the one hand, it's undefined, it's undefinable, and it just presupposes whatever one individual thinks makes a man. Am I an alpha male because I absolutely would not do that? Am I a beta male because I do not believe in physically assaulting someone over an insult to whomever? Am I an alpha male because I know that I'm not picking a fight with someone unless I know damn well that I have to, and I know darn well that I can finish it? I'm not going to go up and slap anybody just because I think I can. Pull out, do something, pull out something, or they know martial arts. You don't slap people, even if they're 110 wet. You don't slap people because they can turn around and kick your butt hard. So you resort to physical violence only when it's an absolute necessity, not out of to protect the honor of your wife from an insult. You just injured your wife's honor a second time because she's married to a buffoon. Title for your new work, from Viva Frei to Viva Frei. Who is the Fro must grow? How long until Canadian Fed vaccine mandates lift? And it has to become sufficiently publicly unpopular. The provinces have lifted them because they became provincially unpopular. But screw you, Canadians, because the feds and Justin Trudeau, who thinks he was given a mandate to do anything when he was reelected with a minority government, not unpopular enough for him. He got reelected with a minority, and now he's teamed up with partner in crime, Jagmeet Singh, and he thinks he's got a mandate. He thinks he was given a mandate by the Canadian population to govern until 2025, thanks to Jagmeet Singh for being a traitor and actually now teaming up with someone who he has spent the better part of 5 years, 3 years, I don't know how long, saying is irresponsible, dangerous, divisive, incompetent. Yeah, you're in good company now, Jagmeet. So that's when they get lifted. I was told I should take breaths. There's plenty of time to breathe when I'm sleeping. But this idea of alpha male nonsense and that he insulted his wife's honor. It's a medical condition. Hold on. Sorry, there's a telephone call coming in. The telephone talks. It's things you don't actually think of all the time. The idea that resorting to violence makes you an alpha male. Oh, but it's a medical condition. So it's okay to resort to violence when someone makes fun of a medical condition, not a life choice. All right. Is male pattern baldness not a medical condition? I mean, is male baldness not a medical condition? It's not one I suffer from. And luckily, my dad's almost 80, still got some hair on his head. But male baldness is a medical condition that we have felt very comfortable making fun of for a long time. Kojak, cue ball. I believe there's a video of Will Smith making a joke about how a bald member of whatever show he was on had to wax his head every day. In fact, I believe Will Smith made fun of Uncle Phil for being bald on the show. So you can make fun of a medical condition in men, but you can't make fun of a medical condition in women. Or alopecia is not gender specific, gender or sex specific. Yeah, so you can make fun of medical conditions sometimes, but not other times. All medical conditions are sacred, but some are more sacred than others. Animal Farm people, we are living through Orwellian times. And by the way, making fun of a medical condition when you know it, it might make you an a-hole. Doesn't mean you should get smacked in the face. To quote, it was Jules Winifred and Pulp Fiction. What was his name? Oh, geez, what was I can't remember his name as an actor or as the character, but you know when they're talking about the guy pushing the other guy out of the window because he massaged his wife's feet. I mean, I appreciate you can expect a reaction when you do stupid things, but that doesn't mean it's in any way justifiable. It just means it might be predictable, it might be foreseeable, but very, very wrong. An alpha male loves all that is right and good, but that Real Hydro PX presupposes what the right and the good is. That there could be a lot of very bad people who are in fact very beta by that definition, who think that they're loving what is right and good when they're actually loving that which is wrong and bad. That makes them alpha male, but negative. I don't know what sigma is. Now I have to go look up sigma. I mean, why not make me Zulu if we're just going down the alphabet? But so, yeah, this idea, but I'm seeing it on the internet, violence being justified because one believes in the underlying motivations for the violence. I mean, that's the breakdown of society. That's not evolution. Will Smith needs to be punished, take away his Oscars, or this now becomes the new standard way to settle arguments. Incidentally, I don't feel that you should retroactively take away awards except that this is kind of related because it's sort of almost workplace. But like, you know, taking away boxers' victories because of out of ring criminality. I mean, I don't agree with that. But then I certainly don't agree with rewarding them after they're known. Roman Polanski. It's one thing to say, well, we're going to go back and take away Harvey Weinstein's before everyone knew, when they all knew. It's another thing to award a known criminal afterwards. Anyhow, so that was it. Or he was not a prophet. He was not a prophet. He was just he could read the past and he could read the present and he knew how it would apply in the future, and he had the ability to express it in a way that will apply throughout time because it was sufficiently vague yet sufficiently specific, as he said it, that it will apply in any era to elections, to pandemics, to news at large. Any male that exudes strength and kindness is a normal type. So I just saw so many peeps equals zzz. I don't know what that means. Okay. So anyways, that was it. It's just funny when someone says, you know, it was a staged event. There has to be a motivation to stage it. So increase ratings, get people to talk about it, get people distracted from the debacle in Ukraine, get people distracted from the debacle that's going on in the US, get people distracted from a recent individual who passed away. You know, there has to be a motivation. The motivation has to make sense and it has to be reasonable. So this is just, it's funny. It's interesting. Someone said this and I was like, oh, interesting. Let's go look it up. And sure enough, true. All right. That's it with that. But speaking of debacles, we'll do a little bit of Canadian stuff so people can see the beauties of universal healthcare. Universal healthcare from a province where, despite universal healthcare, the supreme leader of the province says we're also going to now go and tax the unvaxxed. Oscars distracting from chicken culling because of bird flu based on PCR. The laptop. I could find more plausibility in the laptop. I mean, what a great way to not have that in the news. But no MSM was covering it anyhow. But yeah, distraction is always there. It's a living organism. It's an ecosystem. So it all plays together. Panton, 21. Will Smith is not an alpha. He's a beta, as his actions indicated. You seem to have preconceptions about alpha that are true. Have Drex on to explain. I might have preconceived notions, which I'm not sure. I could have a short discussion on alpha, beta, male, whatever. But I think whatever are the intentions, if it's, you know, I said, look, if alpha means being responsible and mature as an adult, I'd call it an alpha adult. Okay, whatever. But thank you for the super chat. And that is, well, someone says Sinead O'Connor's hot. The alopecia and the hairlessness, Trista Sook, the guitarist that I interviewed at the Ottawa Convoy. I didn't know that she has alopecia. I found out when I went to her social media feeds, her social media accounts. Look, I'm a married man, and so I don't comment on other people's beauty, because it's a bad habit to get into. You comment on your wife's beauty, but you don't fail to see beauty in others. I remember it was the doctor there, the sex doctor, who said, if you stop finding other women attractive, this means you have stopped finding your own wife attractive. What was her name? I'll get in a second. But all I say is Trista Sook, shaved head, she had hair, I guess, I've been a wig when I met her. Beautiful either way, primarily because beauty is to some extent skin deep, but setting exceptions aside, but even what would otherwise be the most, if you're going by metrics, what would otherwise be unattractive people can get very, very attractive when they have good personalities and they're good people. And even the most handsome, good-looking people on earth can become detestable physically because they're detestable people. So yeah, it's nice. It's like a one-notch advantage to have skin deep beauty. But the reality is that the meaningful beauty, which actually affects the skin deep beauty, is spiritual. And if you're an ugly soul in a beautiful body, you're still going to be ugly. Okay. Thus ends the rant there. Now, what did I say I was going to get into? Some people feel men have become neutered. A physical fight can settle things in an instant. The idea that words are always best is not always true. Salty Apostle, here's my take on that. A physical fight can settle things in an instant, yes. It can also result in a cracked tooth in an instant, which will be thousands of dollars in dental fees. It can also result in a concussion. It can also result in a man falling back, striking their head, and dying. So, yeah, it can resolve things in an instant. And sometimes when even when there's limits to the fights, it takes an instant as well to cause irreparable damage because of one moment of uncontrolled rage. I've never been in a physical fight. That's not to say that I've done judo, I've done Greco-Roman wrestling. I think I'm physically fit enough. If it ever came down to it, I could probably run faster than I can fight hard, because I take for granted most people. I'm a small man, but I can run fast and whatever. But yeah, fights can resolve things in an instant. They can also destroy things in that same instant. And all for what? An insult. I remember the first time I saw that. Nick Rekieta showed me the video of the Dumpster Brothers, of the, I doubt it, fighting over a mattress, fighting over the placement of a mattress. And within 2 minutes, lives are ended and lives are ruined. Dr. Ruth, thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. If you stop finding your wife attractive, no, other women attractive. Of course, now that I'm thinking in retrospect, if she was up to like sexual deviancy, no good, maybe it's not the best model to think about, to go to. But yeah, I remember her saying that in particular. Thank you. Aggregate knowledge of the internet. So yeah, fights can resolve things. They can also just escalate, and in an instant. A broken tooth, it's not fun. I mean, a broken tooth changes the way you look for life. You'll get a nice fancy lawsuit out of it, especially if you're in the States. And what have you resolved? Good. You've illustrated how humans can resort to animal behavior in an instant. Congressman Matt Gaetz just questioned FBI about a laptop an hour ago. Go to his Twitter to see. It's intense. I will. What's the black heart emoji? Is there no red heart? I've noticed the black hearts a lot, and I don't know if it's a trend that I don't know about. Not an alpha male. That was a man desperate to prove his masculinity to a wife who has spent years chipping away at it. Yeah, this. And I'll tell you one thing. Getting slapped is not much different than getting punched. And if anyone has any doubts, you can go look on the YouTubes. People get knocked out with slaps. And that slap, if it was not a staged slap, was savage. And Chris Rock, you could see his eyes were watering as he was fumbling and saying, we got to give out an Oscar. I'd say that he took, I mean, he's in a state of shock, but he took it well in that he didn't lose his own composure and he didn't lose his own consciousness. Will Smith, yeah. Oh, yeah, he joked about an Arsenio. So that's what Will Smith joked about an Arsenio Hall band member who had alopecia. Videos on Reddit. I thought it was just baldness. I didn't know it was alopecia. If it was. Okay, hold on. There was a chat. Slap. Normalizing violence for those opposing unacceptable views. Yeah. Punch a Yahtzee. Hey, violence against words. And by the way, I'm not going to pull the as a member of a specific group. I don't believe, first of all, if I genuinely thought someone was a Yahtzee, I'm not punching them. And even if I hear them saying Yahtzee words, Yahtzee tropes, Yahtzee views, even if they're expressing them to me, I'm not condoning punching them. And I'm actually, from my own perspective, not even going to insist that their speech be silenced. Now, if they were getting aggressive with me, then I'd have to reassess, fight or flight. I'd be there. But Viva, when will you turn into a man? Real men can fight and be best friends 2 minutes later. Cowards are cowards. I'll tell you, I mean, the first part's a joke, Nova, but I'll tell you one thing. One of the Sentinel, one of the cornerstone Supreme Court decisions that we read in law school, simple bar fight, one punch. The dude fell back, knocked his head, choked to death on his vomit. I'm sure that 99 times out of 100, brothers, friends can get into a physical altercation and make up for it afterwards. I'm playing my odds that I don't want to be the 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 that it ends up with someone getting permanent damage. And nor am I really risking my own permanent damage over stupid fights out of necessity, utter necessity for life and limb, not for ego and insult. Agreed, Mike Pierce. God, I love your avatar. It reminds me of Zach Galifianakis a little bit, but that is, I'm not sure I will never it will never get that long on me, but we'll see one day. Thank you, Mike. All right, so that's it. What do we want to talk about now? I was watching Scott Adams this morning, and I think the format, I like his format. I like Tim Pool's format of you go live, talk about a bunch of stuff. I'm not printing up my notes. I just Twitter them before. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. Let's just get one thing about what's going on in Canada. Will Smith, the Pfizer, we did that. Compelling arguments, we did that. That was Ron Perlman. We got that. Where's the article? Oh yeah, this is coming out of Quebec, people. You want to know what your universal healthcare is going to look like if you ever get it in the States. And by the way, okay, good, we can see it. People talk about universal healthcare and free healthcare in Canada. If you think anything is free in life, I'm saying this with respect and a bit of humor. You're a kid. Only a kid thinks there's a free lunch. Only a kid thinks anything is free. And I'll tell you this, only a kid and a naive adult even thinks a gift is free. Gifts, all too often, are not free. They are actually pre-purchases. You know, when Justin Trudeau gets a gift of an all-inclusive vacation to Aga Khan's island for his family, it's not a gift. That's an investment. When people get $75,000 loot bags at the Oscars, that's not a gift. That's legalized bribery, in my humble opinion. That is brands buying publicity. That is pharma companies buying loyalty, buying the undying and unyielding loyalty of people who, I got a free $75,000 to $125,000 gift bag, and you learn quickly that very rarely are there bona fide gifts, investments, bribery. But when you get a true gift, it's the best thing, and typically it's just friendship and loyalty. Now bring this back. Oh, sorry. The point was, healthcare is not free in Canada. It's not free in the provinces. It's universal. It's not free. We pay taxes, okay? And a certain portion of the budget goes to healthcare. And I believe it's upwards of 25%. It depends on the province, federally, provincially, the aggregate that goes into it. I'm fairly certain it's 25%. And I'm going to oversimplify the math just for the sake of making a point. If it's 25% of a provincial budget or a government budget that goes into free healthcare, that means 25 cents on every dollar you pay in tax goes to your free healthcare, whether you use it or not. So you pay $100,000 in taxes. If you're fortunate enough to pay that amount in taxes, you're paying $25,000, give or take, for healthcare, for your free healthcare. So that when you have chest pains, you can run into an ER with your Medicare card and get treatment right away and not have to pay for it because it's free because you paid for it in advance. And boy, howdy, if you're the ones paying the taxes in the province, you've paid for it up the wazoo. So it's not free, it's universal. And then the question is whether or not it's quality healthcare. But just the other day, Supreme Leader François Legault announced his new provincial healthcare plan here. And it's just to give you an idea, I mean, I'm watching this. And by the way, there's an election in November, just in case anyone was questioning the timing of this, the timing of François Legault talking about gifts or bribery, giving a $500 check to everyone who made $100,000 or less to combat the rise in inflation that is the result of incompetent and corrupt governance. Yeah, they're taking our taxpayer dollars now, sending a check for $500 to everyone who makes under $100,000 a year. It's not, trust me, guys, they're not buying their vote in light of the upcoming provincial election in November. You'd have to be cynical and black-pilled to come to that conclusion. It's to offset the cost of inflation because they're incompetent, corrupt government members who can't run government. So they're screwed one way or the other. But whatever. New Quebec health plan promises better access to care, improved working conditions for nurses. This is after they laid off. Hold on a second. Let me just see here. Stop screen. This is after, by the way. Let me just. They're promising better access to healthcare, improved services, better working conditions for nurses. This is from CBC News, September 2021. More than 17,000 Quebec healthcare workers face suspension for refusing COVID-19 vaccine. Now, they never made it mandatory. They backtracked the government on this threat to make it mandatory, but they made the threat nonetheless. And what impact does anyone with half a brain think that might have had on people's access to healthcare system? Not only are they not recruiting to an understaffed, overworked, problematic system, they're implementing policy that is going to overtly chase people out. But don't worry, they're going to fix it now. This problem, which by the way was not new to COVID, this has been a problem decades in the making in Quebec and Canada because they don't pay doctors enough. They have bad working conditions. And so what ends up happening is people get a quality medical education in one province, move to a better province, or move to America so they can make good money in good working conditions in the healthcare system in which they were trained. Get back to this article here. Quebec plan, just in time for the election. They're going to solve a problem. They're going to solve a new problem of which they were largely aware has existed for decades. The CAQ, which stands for La Coalition Avenir de Québec, but it's a funny acronym for what they've been doing to us for the last little while. Government plans major changes to healthcare delivery by 2025. Give us another 3 years, guys. We're 2022 in a pandemic that started in 2020. We were so unable to deal with it because our healthcare system was so broken because of decades of neglect, corruption, and abuse and whatever. Give us until 2025. Whatever. I don't know. Quebec unveiled its plan to heal its beleaguered healthcare and social services system over the next 3 years, with a focus on accelerating access to frontline health services through a one-stop phone service, reducing emergency room wait times, and improving working conditions for nurses. Oh, this is CBC, sorry. Figures. The plan, a 90-page document called Human and Efficient Plan to Implement Necessary Health Changes, highlights some solutions to the system's challenges made worse by the pandemic. Here's where they start. Just pay attention. This is where they're pulling the wool over your eyes. We've had this problem for decades. 2018, they had to cancel elective surgeries in Toronto because bad flu season overwhelmed the hospital. Lack of personnel, rising costs, aging population. Oh my goodness, lack of personnel because they chase people out under normal circumstances, let alone when they say you must submit to a medical procedure if you want to continue working here. Rising costs. They managed to find $150 million a year in COVID ads, while simultaneously telling hospitals to cut 150 million from their budgets. Trudeau found $1 billion for a vaccine passport system, which the provinces implemented, but they don't have enough for the healthcare system. How do you entice workers? By the way, I said it when I ran for the PPC. Offer tax-free income to anyone working in healthcare. And I know, because I heard the complaint, well, I work in essential services and trucking. I should get tax-free income as well. I agree. Nothing's going to be perfect at first, but if you have an immediate, urgent crisis, people waiting, the crisis is so serious, you have to lock people in their homes from 8 o'clock at night to 5 in the morning because the hospitals were so overwhelmed. Maybe incentivize people to work through, instead of spending money, just don't collect money. You greedy, corrupt governments who collect it and then find ways to give yourself increased raises during a pandemic, find ways to lose money, lose track of money. But what can we do to entice and lure people into the industry? I don't know. It's like, I've tried nothing and I'm all out of ideas. All right, and then there's some more crap. But if you're in Quebec, I'll include the link. If you're in, but you know what? Let's just so you don't trust me, let's just 150 million cut hospitals, Quebec. Quebec hospitals ordered to cut $150 million from budgets. Let me make sure that we're seeing this. We are. This is not a joke, people. I mean, it's a joke, and we're the punchline. I think they're looking for a way to recoup all the money they spent on the pandemic, which is a little bit premature since we're okay. Cut 150 million bucks out of the budget from Quebec. Here, Quebec COVID ad budget, and I happen to know the amount, so I'm just going to say I think it was 130 million. I just want to get the result. Documents show cost of commercial, and this is from December 20th, before they tell hospitals to cut. Not to put anyone on blast, but you can go read it if all you want. Yada, yada, yada. All these people. Here we go. The COVID communications project, the COVID-19 communications project budgeted around 13 million per month in ad placements with a main objective on informing the public about health measures because people need to be told to wash their hands. 13 million a month. I'm no mathematician here, but that's $152 million a year. The year before they tell hospitals to cut $150 million. By the way, I'd like to know who got that money too, but set that aside for now. How do I get rid of this here? So that's the insidious corruption coming out of Quebec. The healthcare system is great. Universal healthcare system is great. If you want to die in the waiting room, I'm being hyperbolic, but not even. Do I dare go see if this is still monetized? Let's see. Oh, no, it's not. I'm not complaining, people. I'm just requesting a manual review. I've been so controversial. I haven't, and they all get remonetized afterwards. It's just interesting. Okay, so that's Quebec, but that was not. What else do I have on the notes? Let me just see if I've missed any chats here. I want that money. I can tell people that. No, don't cut your hair. Learn from Samson. The biblical references have been coming up a lot these days. Oh, so James Top, by the way, Canada marches. Let me just go share a screen and just see where he's at right now. Share screen, Chrome tab. We can get rid of this one here. What was this? Oh no, that's the stream that we're watching right here. I think it was called CanadaMarches.ca. This is James Top. I interviewed him a few weeks ago. He's not over here already, is he? If he's halfway across, anyhow, you can go check it out. Go watch the interview. Follow it. CanadaMarches.ca. He's marching across Canada. It's amazing. I don't think he can't be halfway. That's too much already. Play chess, not checkers. Do the math. Okay. Well, by the way, play chess, not checkers. Checkers is garbage. I've never played a game of chess. I don't even know the rules, but it's a stupid game. That's my preconceived notion of checkers compared to chess, which I've been struggling at these days on that chess.com app. Does he have a YouTube channel? He does. Hold on, actually, let's go there. And I told him to post live updates. James Top Canada Marches. I know he does because he reached out to me via his channel. James Top, here we go.
Talking about mental health is tricky.
More targeted ads to me. That is James Top. Here, go check it out, people. Boom. In there. Oh, true notes, strong suit. They say right now, community nursing is way understaffed. Home care has suffered big time and still is. No one wants the mandates and to work in those conditions. The Quebec problem is so deep, but the corruption is even deeper. You know, $152 million a year on COVID ads, $1 billion on a COVID app. Okay, but the politicians. They found time for, I believe they've gotten their third raise during the pandemic. Okay, so that was a tangent. What were some of the other subjects that we had for today? We're going to get to the Tim Pool one. I think Tim Pool might have been the only one that we have left to get to. Yeah. Okay. So I talked about the Tim Pool Muse. I put out a tweet about it. And this is the thing, like I'm always one to admit when I'm wrong. I will rarely gloat when I'm right, but I reserve the right to do so. And then this entire story illustrates why no one should ever give online legal advice, over the phone legal advice, quick legal advice. Everything about the practice of law requires facts, details, knowledge. You need to know the facts. You need to know the applicable law. You need to know the details. And so someone says it's a simple question. I didn't pay my landlord rent. Can he kick me out? It's like, okay, well, ordinarily no, because in Quebec, tenants have the right to retain occupancy. And then you find out, oh yeah, I've also there's a judgment rendered against me, or an eviction notice, or he wants to repossess the unit for his family, or I got a court order saying he wants to repossess the entire unit for major reform. Can't give legal advice. Don't do it. So when a cute question comes up, Tim Pool puts out a tweet and says, let me see if I can actually pull up that tweet. Says, I'd like to talk, Muse, because I'm not playing the video because I don't want to get in trouble. I have no doubt I would from the music company thing, the Viva Frei. When Tim Pool puts out a tweet and says, I'd like to talk to you, Muse, because your image art looks very similar to mine on a song that bears the exact same title. And here we go. We have some questions. And one is, this is Tim Pool's Will of the People, original song. It's from a year ago. And then you have Muse, Will of the People, new album teaser, published on his birthday. We'll get to that in a second, because those are some of the details, some of the facts that if you're going to prepare an argument as counsel, you're going to build a narrative, you're going to create a storyline. These are details that you should know. May not be relevant, may not be germane, as we say in law. But if you're going to make an opinion and you're going to craft a narrative, you got to have the facts. So Tim Pool put out the song Will of the People over a year ago. Great song, great video, very reminiscent of Flowbots, Handlebars. I like it. Muse announces their new album called Will of the People. Apparently there's going to be a track called Will of the People. And if you look at it, just the graphic arts, the theme, the imagery looks, similar, and the titles are identical. Now, 30,000-foot overview. In law, titles are not protectable by copyright, and they're not protectable by trademark in Canada anymore since the decision. So ordinarily say, okay, look, looks the same. The idea, the concept of Will of the People itself, it's not radically new. It's an 18th century philosophical concept. Okay, ends there. Well, then I thought, there was the music video. And when I went to look at this, I saw this music video, which was actually the music video for a song called Compliance. I think the music video is better than the song. Song's not bad, in my mind. That's a graphic from the song, which I'm going to move away from because I don't want to have any incidental issues with copyright trolls on the interwebs. So I went to listen to the song, which I thought was the song that Tim thought, stole the idea, stole the theme, stole the storyline. It's called Compliance. I was like, okay, similar vibe. But, other than the title, other than the graphic, I still don't see it. It was the wrong song. And what it actually was this 34-second teaser that Muse put out called Will of the People. Muse, selling their upcoming album, which they're going to be releasing in August, which is a long ways away. March, April, May, June, July, August. 5 months away. So interesting. It was Tim's concern, or the fear or the perception of copying was in the short video that they put out, which seems to be selling a bit of the song, and you hear will of the people in the song, which I'm not going to play, because when I heard that, first thing is I said to myself, that sounds like Beautiful People, Marilyn Manson. And if you go listen to it, it really has the rhythm, the beat, oh, that was a good one. It really sounded like Beautiful People, the Beautiful People. I just saw Ron Perlman's face again on my phone as I went to check Rumble. So let's just make sure that I have not left anything on Rumble. Okay, we're good. Go listen to it. I think Muse might have more than one problem coming out of this, if they do have problems. When I heard the music supporting or underlying that 34-second video, I thought it was Marilyn Manson's Beautiful People. I had to go listen to that video again, or watch that video again. And it's sufficiently different, but the rhythm is the same. And I mean, my initial reaction was, this is Beautiful People, because I didn't even hear what they said. I heard the people, and they were saying will of the people, where I actually thought it said Beautiful People. So setting that aside, Tim's concern is, or if you compare it, that 34-second video is the same timeline, is the same sort of frame by frame of the intro to Tim Pool's music video and the end piece to it. We're going to get into this, actually. Alex Aiello says, so my assumption is that the Muse song is likely to be a tribute to Tim Pool because it was dropped on his birthday. If it is a tribute, is that allowed? What did I just say about giving legal advice on the internet? These are questions I'm going to ask Robert Sunday, actually, because that's a good, if it's so, but then there's so many nuances in copyright violation, copyright infringement. If there's a net benefit, because, Muse is huge, Tim is big, but this could in theory drive more traffic to Tim's song as opposed to siphoning traffic from it, even assuming that there is in fact bona fide copyright. If it's just a similar ode to, and that doesn't what's the word? Not what a parasite sucks away from. If it doesn't cannibalize the market for Tim Pool's song, if it actually increases it, well, there'd be an argument there. But in theory, copyright infringement, even if it results in a net benefit to the egregious individual, it's still copyright violation. Good question, though. A tribute would be interesting. That would be a fun spin on this. Because there's an argument that there's an argument that they're in the same sphere of influence, Muse and Tim Pool, and there would be a strong assumption that Muse has heard of Tim Pool and his music video and his song. To be honest, I think Tim is just doing some big brain, high level guerrilla marketing, smart move. I can never argue intentions. All that I'm saying is, when I found out that on the one hand, I had reviewed the wrong video, I was like, okay, so I came to a conclusion based on inaccurate facts. I then went back to look over the proper video, because I was told I'm an idiot. And when I'm an idiot, I like to be told I'm an idiot. I went back to look at the original, and it's there. I got some more questions now. So I'm going to go back here. Yeah, you're as useless as a. How do I get? I don't know which one I have up. Come on. Viva Frei on Twitter. Okay, I'm an idiot, and I can't figure out how to get rid of this window, so I'm just going to remove this, bring it back, because I'm an idiot. I'm going to fire that producer. Hold on. Was it this one? Yeah, this is it. Okay, so no, but that's not going to tell me which one it was. Guys, hold on a second. Ich bin ein moron. I'm a moron. I just want to bring it up. Twitter. Is it this one? Okay, it is this one. I'm going to scroll down here. Tim Pool. And I'm just going to go to my comparison, because I cannot play the videos without having an immediate problem. So I'm just going to go show screen grabs telling the story of the intros of both songs. Same title. Let me see if we're seeing it properly here. Now I'm seeing things. Close this down. Okay, there we go. We're seeing the same thing. So same title, same color theme. So for everyone appreciates what's going on here. On the right, this is Tim Pool's song on the right, 3 screen grabs of the intro. The 4th screen grab is at the end of Tim Pool's song when, and I love the messaging as well. You know, the revolution, they come, you know, the people join the revolution, they haul their ropes over the statue and they tear it down like they did with Saddam Hussein. And in Tim Pool's video, the statue of the tyrant, I think, is on a rotating it's on a rotating axis with 4. So, you know, they pull one down and it just gets replaced by another tyrant. Great concept. I you know, whether or not it's a fundamentally original idea, humans have brains and they think, you know, similarly. You know, someone has probably had a similar idea. But this is the storyline. Intro starts with what looks like a monolith, and it had some thing on it that looked like Fauci juice injectors, but I don't know. Then you got a statue with ropes on it. And this one is at the end of the video. So 2 are from the beginning, 2 are from the end. People throw ropes over the statue, pull it down. And in Tim Pool's video, it's a rotating axis. On the left is from the short video, the 34-second video to sell Muse's new album. Looks like LA. You know, sunrise is orange. You can't do so much about that. You've got statues with ropes on it here, which, you know, looks similar to here. Then you got people attaching more ropes to it, and then they pull it down. And what you have after they pull down the statue are 3 heads in the ground. Now, I don't know Muse very well. I don't know if this is Muse's face. I actually thought one of them was a relevant current political figure, but I don't think it is. So I don't know if these heads are band members of Muse, who they're intended to be. So here's the question, people. If you stumble across Muse's short video and you see this, you see the title, do you think this is related to or going to cannibalize or copying to a point which is violating of copyright, which is the expression of the idea, not the idea itself, which is the work as a whole, not the title of the work individually? Is there infringement? Visually, it looks, let me just go see actually what the chat is thinking here. Visually, it's interesting. Visually, I can now see, I won't say an argument, but I can now see the argument. Tim has 2 follow-up songs, novels, and a movie with the will of the people concept in the works, though. Something is hinky. Muse singer is in the Alex Jones fans. This dude knows what he's talking about here. Likely he has heard Tim's content. Now that you've said it, this is my understanding as well. That it's going to be part of a trilogy or a series, and in which case there's different laws at play. Individual work is one thing, part of a series is another. Star Trek, for example. Something hinky. Muse singer. I never knew Muse was an Alex Jones fan, but now that I know that, and I know that I was told this is true by other people as well, undoubtedly, it's going to be very hard for him to say I've never heard of Tim Pool or his song. But in general, in the music industry, anyhow, it's tough to say that. You know, when I can only think of Dark Horse from Katy Perry, but you know, when music is out there and published, and someone had access to it, and it was popular enough that they would have heard it, you know, there's that. Let me see here. 100th Monkey, don't cut the hair. Okay, I'm gonna go see what I'm confused. Only Tim can conceptualize statues coming down. So then the issue is one element is different than the work as a whole. And this was my reflex as well. Title, will of the people is not an original concept. Pulling down statues, it's not an original concept. It's iconic of revolution. A story of people approaching a statue at the rise of dawn with an orange sunset behind in a dystopian post-apocalyptic universe, strapping ropes to it and pulling it down. Are we getting there? I mean, is that a unique story? Is that a unique expression of an idea that is protected? I've been told that Muse has the best live shows ever. Having not been able to do them for the last little while, I can imagine that might hurt someone. Well, gosh, who cares about Tim Pool? Well, look, we're not going to talk about the slap. This is interesting. But this is interesting not just because of Tim Pool. This is interesting because of the subject matter, but it also highlights the importance of you need to know the facts before you can even issue any sort of legal opinion. So there's that. So that's the storyline. Then you get into some, if you're a lawyer in the file and you want to craft a narrative, Muse or Alex Jones fans, undoubtedly they heard of Tim Pool. They released this on March 9. On a Wednesday, which is interesting, 5 months ahead of the release of the album, which is interesting. Maybe they're going to release singles along the way, so that might explain the delay. The delay is interesting. The fact that they released it on what is Tim Pool's birthday is interesting. So there's a story in there. And now the funny thing though is I'm going into it, and I said Exhibit 2. Muse might not only have problems with Tim or beautiful people Marilyn Manson. There's only so many ways to make a mask, but the mask that I saw in the intro video looked a lot like the mask in Squid Game. I mean, and chat, you tell me if I'm seeing things. And maybe this, no, I don't. Is that on the same thread? Oh yeah, there you go. The Oscar mask. No, but hold on. And then how do I get to? There was Exhibit 3, which I can't seem to find. This is why I should just retweet and not. Here we go. And Exhibit 3. To be fair to Tim Pool, and just to show you, like certain images are iconic. Are these sufficiently? Are the two on the left and the right, which is Muse's and Tim Pool's, sufficiently similar compared to other stuff that has existed? So these are the questions that everyone has to ask when you get into legal battles. But you can hear certain details, which can cause you to be very curious. And if you go watch the intro video, if you go watch the promo video for Muse and compare it to Tim Pool's intro and end video of his song, Will of the People, same song, same effective storyline, same coloring, same concept, save and except for Tim Pool's revolving statues at the end as opposed to Muse's 3 faces in the ground. Do you have an argument? That's pretty much it for that, anyhow. So that's we'll see where it goes. I'm gonna talk about it with Robert because I sometimes I trust my own opinion, and other times I'm always interested in getting the opinion of people who I think are smarter and definitely more experienced than me. So we'll do that. It was an homage to Tim Pool's work. Shouldn't Muse at least let him know? If it were an homage, shouldn't they at least let him know they copied him, or reply to a tweet at least? One would think so. One would think so. Okay. Well, that's that. Viva Frei, each element on its own is one thing, but once all of those are combined, it's a different thing. And that's the catch of copyright law, is you don't take any one element in abstractum. It's the work as a whole. So that's going to be the question. But then the idea is, even the work as a whole, is it sufficiently original to qualify for copyright protection as an original work? Anyways, it's interesting, and that's why, that's the thing. One way or another, maybe it's a marketing ploy for Muse, who's been out for the last little while, and like we saw when Nike sued Lil Nas X over the blood shoes. Was it Lil Nas X or was it? Yeah, it was Lil Nas X. When they sued over the blood shoes, I think everyone made out like bandits there. The people who made the limited editions, Nike, Lil Nas, that was a win-win-win through the judicial system. It was a win-win-win-win. Because Nike won, Lil Nas won, those shoes sold, the lawyers won, even the court system won because they got it right and their resources were used. Yeah, but then maybe Tim Pool agreed to it and maybe he's pretending not to. I don't think so. Tim Pool is a big, tiny okay, sorry. I assume that's a joke because anybody who thinks the size of one's genitalia is an indication of anything, even as a joke. Yeah. So that's it. What else is there? Do I go back? Do I dare go back to the Twitter feed? Let me just go back to my Twitter feed for 1 second and see if there's anything I left out in my notes. See if Ron Perlman blocked me like Kathy Griffin. The people who can put out the most controversial, in-your-face stuff, appeal to First Amendment rights, themselves cannot stand the slightest bit of pushback on their fragile egos. That was my response to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Love to have her. I say I'd love to have her on for a sidebar or a stream, but what happened with Tim Pool contemporaneously with interviewing Marjorie Taylor Greene was interesting. Okay, I think that's about it. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat before we wind up. 2:15. Good. Oh, God, yeah. My Twitter feed is my diary. And I put out a clip on Viva Clips for anybody who's not watching that there. Let us shut this down, and I'll go to see if I've got any questions in the chats that I can answer that are not necessarily super chats. Oh, yeah. Well, so Alan Dershowitz put out a video yesterday, a live stream. Did Will Smith commit assault? I have to go see it because if the answer is anything but yes, I'll have a great problem with Alan Dershowitz's argument. But I have no doubt the answer is going to be, of course he did. Unless Will Smith identifies as someone who did not commit assaults. And then I'd be curious to know what Alan Dershowitz thinks about that, given his recent post on Twitter. It turns out we thought you couldn't change genders, but now you can because I said so. Well, if you can change certain statuses, can you change your status of someone who committed assault to someone who didn't because you identify that way? Tim should have you on next time MTG is on his show. That would be funny that we could do that. Hey, I'll tweet it. I'll tweet it out to Tim. Wouldn't mind going back on anyhow. It was a good excuse for a long road drive and seeing the country again. I want to hear what you think about Melanie Joly's mandate to censor internet propaganda. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Never let a real crisis go to waste. Never let a manufactured crisis go to waste. Never let the opportunity to manufacture a crisis go to waste. I'm thinking Ottawa protest. And never let someone else's crisis go to waste. Yeah, okay. Melanie Joly, for those who don't know, hold on, let me just get it up. I could only find the tweet in BlackRock from a BlackRock. The Twitter feed is called BlackRock. I don't want to go to Twitter. I want to go to Google. Melanie Joly, who was the mayor of Montreal, now the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Melanie Joly. And by the way, Melanie, hold on a second here. Melanie Joly, censor propaganda. You know what? Hold on. Let me just show. I'll show you the work that I'm doing so nobody accuses me of. She's now the Minister of Foreign Affairs. She replaced Marc Garneau because the way Justin Trudeau rewards loyalty and success on the campaign trail is by shuffling out Marc Garneau, who got reelected in my riding with 53% of the vote. Shuffle him out of Minister of Foreign Affairs and replace him with Melanie Joly. For all her, I'm not lambasting her credentials, except to say that maybe she did not have the credentials to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Maybe she didn't have the requisite experience. And I know that she didn't have the requisite professional experience. She has not even lived long enough to have the requisite life experience. So let me just see if I can get this. National Post, March 21st. This might be it. Oh, it's here. Black Locks. Sorry. I don't know who this is. Black Locks. Let me just see here. That was the tweet. 22. The only reporter owned and operated newsroom that covers the capital without politics or punditry. All original content. Subscription $315 a year. Nothing wrong with getting paid for the work that you do and asking to get paid for the work that you do. I will follow that when I get back to my non-incognito. It says Canada needs wartime censorship of internet. Melanie Joly tells MPs. My mandate as Canada FP, foreign policy, okay, is really to counter propaganda online. Oh, really? Can I pull up a Billy Madison meme? Oh, really, fool? Really? Yeah. Okay. Let's just go get an article. I'm going to go get an article from the National Post, not because I don't trust Black Locks. I don't know them well enough to trust them. The Paradise, I don't know either. The Toronto Sun. Okay, here we go. I'm not pulling a hierarchy. I'm going to go look into Black Locks and follow them, but I'll take one that we can't disagree with or that nobody's going to attack the credentials of. Editorial, more liberal online censorship. We know Bill C-10. I've talked about it. The law that didn't make it to the Senate because they prorogued Parliament or they ended the session. Bill C-10 was intended to govern the interwebs the way radio and television is governed by the Broadcasting Act or the Broadcast Act. Treat social media platforms, treat people's social media profiles like broadcasters and subject them to the provisions of the Broadcast Act. All right, the last things Canadians need is even more attempts to censor and regulate their social media, yet the Liberal government is once again hinting they're going to do just that. Experts already have their concerns about a controversial piece of legislation now known as Bill C-11, because I guess it follows Bill C-10, which died in the Senate because the session ended and the bill never got passed, so they got to start from scratch. I presume it's gonna hump on the back of that Bill C-10. There was a great uproar when the bill was first introduced that the government was planning to censor Canadians' social media, we wrote last month. While the government denied this, experts maintained the bill would have this very effect. By the way, just so we're clear on something as well, Minister Guilbeault, Minister of Heritage, the guy who was arrested once upon a time for scaling the CN Tower to protest climate change or whatever, he at first came out and said Bill C-10 is not intended to govern individual social media accounts. They said it's not intended to do that. But for those of you who have been on this channel for long enough or paying attention, at one point that was a concern. And at one point when they were drafting Bill C-10, they included a specific exclusion to say that Bill C-10, which would be an amendment to the Broadcasting Act, would not cover people's individual social media accounts. They included an exclusion specifically excluding social media accounts. In the dead of night, the Liberal government removed that exclusion. And then when Guilbeault, the Minister of Heritage, was being grilled on this, he says, they were saying, well, why did you remove the exclusion? Look, it doesn't matter. We don't want to do that anyhow. He says, yeah, but it was, I forget the reporter's name. If anybody knows, he's great. He says, yeah, but at one point it was included. And then at one point you removed it. If you have no intention of governing individual social media accounts, why did you remove the exclusion that was included to specify that exclusion? He had no good answer, and for good reason, because shortly thereafter, they ultimately concluded and they ultimately admitted, yeah, it's going to apply to social media accounts if they're big enough to qualify as broadcasters because they have to pay their fair share. They admitted after initially denying, after initially explaining, don't worry that the exclusion that was included was then subsequently excluded in the dead of night by the Liberal government. Don't worry about it. It's not intended to govern social media accounts, individuals. They then admit later on, yeah, if they're big enough, it will. Liars. They're just liars. There's no other way to put it. So it's the same cat and mouse game here, it seems. Law professor Michael Geis explained in a blog post that's appropriately headlined, not ready for prime time, that, quote, for all the talk that user-generated content is out, the truth is that everything from podcasts to TikTok videos fit neatly into the new exception that gives the CRTC, that's the governing body under the Broadcast Act, Canada Radio Television Communications, the power to regulate such content as a program. It's the same argument. They're not broadcasters unless they're big enough. We don't want to target individual accounts. We won't. Okay, we will if they're big enough and they qualify as broadcasters. This new bill means your online postings may soon be subject to government censorship. Surprise, surprise. It's crap. It's just crap, people. Last week, Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly appeared before a House of Commons committee to discuss Russian disinformation. Yeah, they discuss Russian disinformation. Don't discuss Canadian disinformation. Don't discuss CBC. Posted that fake article, fake news on Engelhardt, the protester who regretted joining the protest. Bunk story. Don't talk about CBC state-funded media. Talk about Russian state-funded media. It's well known that President Vladimir Putin uses information warfare. Hashtag confession through projection. It's probably true, but it's still true of the Trudeau government, and we know it in real time. This is true whether it comes to manipulating the narrative. Hashtag confession through projection. Around the war in the Ukraine, that's just the variable, mutatis mutandis, or just pushing Russia's talking points. We literally just saw CBC do that with the healthcare system. Canada is pushing back, such as how the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission has banned the station Russia Today, also known as RT, from being offered in Canada. Leave it. The only way to punish a tyrant is to become a tyrant. What does this have to do with domestic censorship? Good question. We don't think it does. We think you should be able to push back against Putin's misinformation while still safeguarding Canadian freedom of expression. Okay. Yet Joly offered some chilling remarks that suggest the Liberals may use the invasion of Ukraine as a pretext for their domestic agenda. Social media companies need to do more, Joly said at committee. They need to make sure they recognize states have jurisdiction over them and that they're not technology platforms, but they're content producers. I mean, I might agree with this under certain circumstances, but It is our way collectively to make be careful, people, when you see that word, to make sure they can really be able to have strong democracies in the future. The best way to have a strong democracy is obviously to censor information. It's obviously to silence free speech. That's how you make strong democracies. In China, maybe. And I'm saying that only as the example because Justin Trudeau has been so vocal in his praise for that basic dictatorship. Yeah. The collective way to ensure that you have strong democracies is to suppress freedom of speech. Let that Orwellian doublethink sink in. This war is being fought with 21st century tools, including social media. Yeah, it's never happened before. That's quite a stretch to suddenly switch gears from Putin to talking points about all social media. Canadians should be concerned. Agreed. Anyways, it's garbage. It's obvious garbage. It's garbage from the Liberal government that just wants to control every aspect of every individual's lives from birth to death, to make them dependent on the government, to make them feel dependent psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, to make them think that they can't live without the government. The Liberals' relationship with citizens is the quintessential paradigm for an abusive relationship. You literally have the government saying, you can't live without me. If you try to leave me, I'm going to punish you. I control what you see, what you hear, who you talk to, who you see when you leave your house. It is the paradigm of an abusive relationship. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's that. What else? Any other questions? So yeah, it's garbage. Bill C-11 to be followed. Love to have Jordan Peterson on one day to talk about it sooner than later. I should probably reach out on the social medias. It's a consequence of our youth-obsessed culture that we have people in charge with no wisdom and zero life experience. When I read Justin Trudeau's life experience, and it's not to be belittling or demeaning, teaching is important. And if it's teaching drama or teaching gym, it's important. But becoming prime minister, his university education is nothing stellar. And I'm saying that like not to be an arrogant prick. It's surprising. But it's not to say that you can not go to university and still have such wicked business experience, business acumen, life experience that you can be just as able to govern. He's got neither of those. I mean, for goodness sake, I have more business experience than Justin Trudeau. I ran my own law firm. It was small, but I know what it's like to run a small business in Canada. I know what it's like to hire, to have to fire, to do due diligence, to deal with the freaking government paperwork that they make, to deal with a bar society, to deal with business, to deal with marketing, advertising. I mean, I've had to do it. All of it was kind of fun, except for the practice of law. I still never got used to that. So there's that. I mean, it's inconceivable. They're young, they have no life experience, and they think that they have all of the answers. And not just that they think they have all of the answers, they think that they are all of the answers. I mean, it's one thing to have an answer. It's one thing to think that the only cure to historical government abuses is more government overreach. The only way to cure the wrongs that the Canadian government have perpetrated against Canada's Indigenous is with more government and more interference in individuals' lives. Yeah. You go from apologizing to one historical atrocity to arguably, and I will say not arguably, committing a current government atrocity for which future governments will be apologizing, if not outright paying. Dude, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that you'd want to trade. I'm not sure that you'd want Justin in the States. I mean, the only saving grace about Justin's incompetence as a leader is that Canada it's a smaller country than the States. Can you imagine if Justin Trudeau had the voice of Joe Biden in the context of the Russian war in Ukraine? My goodness. Okay, I won't go further with that. Okay, I'm going to just try to read some chats, but I'm going to try to read them before I bring them up so I don't get myself in trouble. James O'Keefe. What happens when a government just runs amok? It's out of control. Salty Army here. Booyah. Oh, you might see me. You might see me on Krigley soon. Yeah, Krigley. Oh, is it Krigley or Krigler? I know I've ingrained the wrong name in my head. But you might see me on. I don't want to be disrespectful. Hold on. I've traumatized myself, Adam Krigler. Yeah. It'll probably be happening sooner than later. Okay, let's see if I can get some chats here. Yep. Okay. I will. Well, let's see. It's these. I can't read as fast. No, but if Tim Pool put out a book that said "Where's Timmy," and it was Tim with a beanie and and glasses hiding behind things, I don't know. There might be a problem. But I don't know what the animosity is against Tim. He's a good, hardworking, and until proof to the contrary, my experience is honest individual, honest journalist. But I guess, when you reach 1 million+ people, there's going to be people who don't like you for things that you've said. When am I coming to Edmonton to visit? Well, so one of the things I might want to try to meet James Topp somewhere along the road. I have not been rewatching Patrick Lancaster's latest reports. I'm going to go check out on some of that. Who have I been following lately for information? Hold on, listen to this, people. Oh God, that was my lower back, and that hurt too much. Truth Social. I look, if I'm active on locals, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I'm still active on Twitter because it's like it's the first of all, it's the place where you get the information. It's the place where you have the fights, the Twitter wars with the fun people. You add another platform. You add another platform, and it's just too much at some point. Truth, Getter, Twitter, Locals, Facebook, Instagram, then YouTube. It's too much at some point. Calgary better than Edmonton? Okay, I don't want to. I won't have much hair left by the time 2026 rolls around. Well, we'll see about that. So far, the baldness only starts in my family at about 60 some odd, but the grayness starts at about 40. I have a couple of brothers who are. Do we have a Canadian? Oh, I thought this was a joke. A Canadian Whistleblower Association organization. I know that I won't answer. I don't know. I'd have to check to see what the Canadian whistleblower protection laws are. But I suspect we have. Okay, well, that's it. So that was fun, people. Tomorrow night, we're going to have a sidebar with George Gammon. Should be fantastic. And let me just make sure that I have not forgotten anything on the Rumbles. Refresh. I suspect we have. Yeah, I'm listening to me in real time, and that's somewhat surreal. Let's see if I got any chats on... how many people have ever had the urge? Okay, no, I can't read that. There's a lot of chat on Rumble that there's a lot of chat here that I won't read, but I'm not going to read it. I would like to see you slick back hair, Gordon Gekko style. You know what? The question is this. I'm very, very close to the man bun. We'll see. Very close. My wife said the hair would stop growing sooner than later. We got to see what the poll says. Crossing Alberta, no. So that's it. Hold on, people. We're going to go to the chat. We're going to go to this thing. We're going to end the poll.
You've got to do this for your girl.
It's a soap commercial, if anyone heard that. End poll. Well, you know what? That was closer than I thought it was going to be. Where do I see the results? Okay, here we go. So we had 5.6 thousand votes, and 49% said no, don't cut. 28% said don't care, and 20% said cut. Definitive, determinative. I should not have even put in don't care. I would have forced the people who don't care to take a position. Not cutting it. Mom, not cutting it. Not yet. Did you watch Oliver Stone's Putin interviews? No, I didn't. So that's something, because I'm told there's like 50 hours of that. There's a lot of I'll watch it. I mean, you imagine they were watching Tucker Carlson for wanting to have that interview, to thinking it's treasonous or traitorous, even if you operate on the basis that Putin is the existential enemy of the West, even if you think he is, to say that it's somehow traitorous, that warrants spying. And yes, I'm still rambling, but that's what you came here for. Okay, maybe not for the rambling. You came for the legal discussion and insights. So tomorrow night is going to be George Gammon. Tomorrow during the day, we'll see what news comes up, and we'll certainly have something to discuss. Oh, there was one thing that I didn't discuss. It was Bian Rafikian, who had a victory in court of sorts. Rafikian was Michael Flynn's business partner, who was originally found guilty by a trial by jury of violating the FARA Act and being an undisclosed foreign agent. The judge overturned the jury decision. A higher court overturned the judge's decision, and now a higher up court overturned the higher up court decision. And he's going to get a new trial on certain charges. I'll talk about that tomorrow, along with whatever else is going on in the news. Mishkola, thank you very much. Yeah, I have to say I'm a YouTuber and Rumbler at this point. So the Michael Flynn saga still keeps going, but fun stuff. I forgot to talk about it early on. No point doing it now. Talk about it tomorrow, and we shall have more discussion to discuss tomorrow. Everyone, enjoy the rest of the day. Get out there, get some sunlight, get some exercise, take a breath of fresh air, and do not think there's anything to be proud of in resorting to violence over words. Period. Full stop. End of story. And anybody who is saying that there's something commendable about it, I would have a serious discussion with them. So with that said, people, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. If you want to support us over there, thank you for all the support. Clip, share, you know what to do. And I will see you all tomorrow and then again tomorrow night. Peace.